Podcast with our host, Dr. Mohamed from RTILA. Dr. Mohamed, here's my take for this week. We have probably 3 different umbrellas that we need to discover as an agency, as we really are trying to discover AI. We're an AI discovery model. We implement AI, we research AI, teach AI, but we don't want to say we're an AI company. And that's definitely I'm not interested in that. And that's why I have people like you that I can white label the services as I see them building out. And I was talking to people at a meeting yesterday about you. Here's where I'm at. Number 1, AI is a fantastic research and text-to-text conversations, ideas, writing, creating images, writing blog posts, all those things. Which one's the best? That is our next question. Claude versus ChatGPT versus Meta, Lama 3.0, put them all together in one and see which one works. And I think we need to go over those things in my discoveries on the RTILA podcast, because I am very important, because you write your social media posts, you get your research, you create projects, you look at things, which one is the best? Another area which I have really been starting to break down is voice AI. And that's called conversational AI/voice AI. I did not explain what it is. It's where you're talking to a real live AI agent that talks to you, can talk back and forth to you, ask you questions, and provide information. What am I learning? And that's where I'm going to go to. What I've learned in this process of this is that, guess what? It is not as smart as the text-based model. Everything I tried to do that I just mentioned, and like going over meetings, go over specific things, it's not as intelligent, it is not as detailed, and it is not as willing to do it for you. Screws up a lot more. Why is that? And on the models I've tested in voice are only Grok and ChatGPT. I'm soon potentially going to test Replica. I'm soon going to be testing Claude, because I know I just have to download it on my phone. I'm too damn lazy. And then, because I've been paying for Claude, and then I'm going to test it. I think that Gemini has one too. I love it because it's my executive assistant, which means that there's going to be different rules for everyone in the company. Because at Media Giant Productions, we probably have 150 AI agents. So we have a team of 150 people if you wanted to look at the amount of work fulfillment it can do. So your take on my take on the voice.
Yes, first, it's a very interesting way that you're using AI, and it's a very powerful way. So what I would say about the discrepancy that you said between the quality of text to text and then what we call the multimodal AIs. So multimodal is as soon as you have something else than text, voice, video, sound, or even files. It will read files, Excel files, PDFs, maybe you feed it some images. Yeah. So the level of complexity from an algorithmic perspective and from a hardware perspective to do is a huge curve going up compared to text, because remember ChatGPT 3 at the beginning, it was really just doing text to text. It took many years before they even brought in image generation.
Right.
And that shows you how long it takes to move from one modality and add another dimension of content. So for us as users, it just looks like, because as humans, we ingest and we digest multimodal all the time. We have sound, touch, thinking, text, reading, speaking. We do all that at the same time. But it's super intense from a management perspective of those data flows and a GPU power. So as soon as that model tries to do more than one modality, more than text, it's stretching itself already in terms of capacity and resources.
Yeah, I would.
But they're getting better and better.
It's definitely getting better and better. But it was almost getting up to snuff since the update in 5.0. However, I think that I didn't test it enough to see that I was wasting time at times. And so there's 2 different things. I don't look at my text-to-text model where you cut a prompt, it writes all our stuff. I don't consider that an executive assistant. I consider that one of the team. My executive assistant, I want to be able to hear my ideas, have the intelligence over my intelligence or close to that, or be able to follow me and be my sounding board. If I would say Grok is better than ChatGPT, but memory is the biggest issue. If I can find one that's going to remember all my conversations, you could go in Grok and it remembers your conversation from one conversation. ChatGPT. So it changes so quickly in the process, and it's a great sounding board, but it could also be a lot of waste of time. You could put all this stuff together and then it's not very good. The output that AI agent has given you, that voice agent has given you, is absolute garbage. And that is the frustration.
Yes.
Let's go to dive deeper into this and tell me, will this ever, or you think that the technology will always be advanced on the text side versus the voice side?
Yeah, it will always be that case. So you remember we discussed about the context window, how much the AI can remember what it has done with you. And the context window is measured in tokens. A token is about 0.75 words. Let's say it's a word, one word. So initially, like ChatGPT, for initial version, it will only remember like 1,000 tokens, 1,000 words of discussion. So in text, 1,000 words, you have a lot of information. But if it's now voice, it will only remember 10 seconds. Equivalent of a discussion, because it's so much more resource intensive, and
but it can go back.
It can go back. It has a hard time because its memory is limited to 10 seconds of voice information. You see what I mean? But if it was in text, it doesn't have to process it, so it keeps the history of all those 1,000 words. Do you see what I mean? Because it's text.
When I've tested it, where I used to go back through and went through all my clients from what I uploaded, and then longer into the text, it can't go back anymore, and you have to prompt it to go search, and it will. In a chat, but not in another thing. And then contextually, if it doesn't understand you, as we're seeing with ChatGPT, that's where we're trying to find the best model out of all of them.
So there's a big fight at that level about the context window. The context window is now getting in the million of words. So once you have a million of words potential live memory, so it's like us, the RAM memory of the computer and the memory that we use for short term. So sometimes it will buffer out short-term memory to long-term memory, and then you have to query it to remember again what you did last week. So there are two types of memories. One is like more for storage, and one is more for interactive right now, what Neil wants me to do. And that memory is very limited compared to the long storage memory of the AI model.
Do you think that they made them dumber or as not capable in the new updates because it was costing too much in their GPU?
Yeah, I think they're struggling, and that's the whole R&D that they're doing. They're pushing this thing to its limits, and when they make an advance in an algorithmic way, they hit a physical bottleneck of the hardware. They don't have enough hardware. And I read in the US right now, the main issue is that the electricity, it's pulling from the grid like crazy. So every time they do these big trainings and these big operations, they swallow the American consumption of electricity of 30 years between the 1960s and the 1990s. One data center now swallowed that in a week. All that energy that all the Americans had used for 30 years. So that is a huge bottleneck.
It's absolutely very just intriguing in so many ways, and where we're going with all this. Yeah. It's for sure. Okay, let's go to the third area. First area is just text, creating our social posts for our agency through other SaaS products. So that's the other part, is that we're using other SaaS products as well that have AI implemented into it, integrated into it, that are much better with ChatGPT or Claude to write our copy, to create blog posts, to do all the different things that we do for our agency, and then also organize, write proposals, create business plans, do all these different things. I don't trust voice at all anymore on that. I saw it was getting there. The third area is one I'm not just tackled enough yet, and that's involving writing code. Why do I want to learn to write code? Because ultimately, I want to be a full digital agency. And that means to be able to do everything, set up different things and all that. So I want to learn Cursor, Copilot, just really introduce these different areas. This one's the most intriguing because it saved the programmer in so many ways. Because now it's very technical for an average user that doesn't know how to prompt to build something out. Because you're going to need to use ChatGPT or Claude or one of those as a brain to create the project idea, go through that idea, then implement it in Cursor or GitHub the next phase. Now, is that a lot of work? Absolutely.
Yes.
Is that something that is going to be correct? What if the code doesn't work? It won't work. And you and I firsthand have seen this building some of the automations out for Media Giant Productions.
Yeah.
They were in process. They're going to, and probably in September, we're going to be updating you through what we've been using with RTILA to improve that. Now, explain that to people. That area is probably the most valuable, and that's where most people spend their time on AI as programmers and people who are truly a tech company.
Yes. So that's probably the next best return on investment when it comes to using AI. Beside the marketing and the branding and accelerating that is creating software almost on the fly, theoretically. Now, in practice, there is a learning curve for us as business people, because as business people, we have an idea. We know that we want to transform this input into that output. We have a very clear idea of the input output, and we have a good feeling that will make money, which is a skill in itself, that not everyone has. But then when you start to use the AI for programming, you have to step back from that, and you have to look at the code and learn the basic concepts of programming, because you still need to guide the AI, just like the acute knowledge you have of marketing, where you will tell the AI to use this technique or that technique because of the context that you know better. The same kind of knowledge, you will have to catch up to it, Neil. Like, for example, you have to know when to ask it to create a loop, break the loop here, and then change the conditional logic. If this happen, I want you to do this instead of that. And I want this format, but not that format, because down the line, I'm going to use this format, which is PDF or JSON. So you need to learn about what is JSON, what is CSV form. And then your skill at creating a software is going to increase every week.
AI is a brain, and I'm going to learn from AI to do that.
You're going to learn. And where it's a little bit more tiring for me when I use AI for coding is that it requires much more eyes focus on the lines of code, because it breaks as much code as it creates new code. So some functionalities that I had working last week, it breaks it off to make the new functionalities, and then it loses some parts. So that's very frustrating. It's making a lot of progress, and that's where Cursor, they have some snapshot and you can come back in time on what you developed. But there's a lot improvement. So probably I would say in the next 6 months, you will be able to speak to the AI and say, design for me an Excel software like Excel and call it Nail Excel. And he will do the logo, he will do the software, and he will have 80% of Excel. And he will call it Nexel with your face as the icon. It's coming soon.
See, and then they're going to see a lot of scammers that create these new companies that cost nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Not scam, meaning like you're going to sell you something that, yeah, they put the time in, they had the idea, but really it's just it's a copy. It's like in the Coming to America, McDowell's instead of McDonald's.
Yes, exactly. You're going to have the same plagiarism and just enough to sell you the stuff.
And that's where you really, if you're going to be smart, you pick an industry. Here's the thing that I think that I'm frustrated, but I at least identified in this. AI, even in a fresh chat might give you better information than in a chat where you're giving it all this input, which is ridiculous too. So it just really has to go back to, you have to have a lot of knowledge in the industries that you're in, and to really look at things and study these things and watch the experts go, and then copy it with AI. But, so you understand it, you can't do it. That's the key thing. So for example, if you don't understand what a standard operation procedure is and says, hey, write an SOP for this company, and you don't give enough input, it's going to be garbage. Write a business plan, and it'll split out the worst business plan you ever saw in your life. Yeah. But if you understand what needs to be in the business plan, you continue. We have gone back to the days before Dr. Mohamed. We have gone back. Explain that. We have gone back to when ChatGPT first came out, that it's not going to give you the first information that is the best information again.
Yes. So let's calibrate this view, Neil. Our expectations have grown exponentially for AI as compared to what we were expecting from ChatGPT 3 years ago. So we don't realize, but the more we achieve with AI and the more we want it to achieve, and our expectation is growing faster than its capacity. So that's one thing, because you see, even as of today, you're not just doing like a small chat like you were doing with ChatGPT 3. You're creating like almost the whole life cycle of a whole business in your interactions with the AI. So you're already like in level 12 floor building. You've built a 12 floor building and you forget that it was so hard to build a 1 floor building or even a ground floor building. So that's one thing that we need to calibrate. But as we are going, there is also this phenomena where my feeling on that, Neil, and I don't know if it's a tangent, but I see it like there are two radical edges. There is the guy that knows nothing. He doesn't know nothing about marketing, and he doesn't know nothing about business plan. And whatever he would have outputted would have been garbage. AI will do better than him. Yeah. Even if it does garbage, it will be a better garbage.
Yes.
And then you have the other edge of the specialists. Like you are the specialist in this discipline, and you're going to guide it. And whatever it's going to give you at first, sometimes you get it right in the first prompts, and then it goes down. And sometimes it starts slow until you hash it and you correct it and you tell it no. And then it starts to pick up because you're the specialist and you gave it a context, and then it has enough context to understand the output that you want. So that's what I noticed. Like the expert guys are going to use it in a certain way, and the expert guys will get more frustrated than the beginner guys.
Yes. And they'll think they got information. Look at how we were in this last podcast.
Yeah.
I explained how to do AI couldn't explain it. And
Yes.
you have to be able to understand what that input output final delivery is. And I'm learning how I visually learn things is not how my team does, which is frustrating because I wish I had 100 hours a day. Can AI give me the ability never to sleep again and to learn it, because it's so intriguing stuff, because I saw someone post, ChatGPT's making us dumber. It's making certain people dumber. It's making the media giant. It's really, truly giving me that opportunity to grow a media empire.
So I can give you, so no, you're touching a very good point. And I think it's not exaggerating to say building a media empire, because you can really do that. You have the technical capacity and you have the AI to help you. But I wanted to give you the analogy of the calculator. You remember when we were in classrooms, or we heard about people in the 60s, they didn't have calculators. They could calculate very well with their mind. And then when the calculator came, they became dumb. You can't do two by two, three. Yeah. So like you said, that technology can get you dumber, definitely, because it offloads some of the intellectual processes into the machine. But then if you're a smart accountant and you have a calculator, man, you double your output. Huh? You don't care about remembering heavy multiplication in your mind, numbers to crunch, and you know what is the result. So it's the same with AI. It will offload from us all the processing. It will make us dumber. But then those who know how to use this thing and they cross over to the production level, that you produce value out of AI, you're not getting dumber, you're getting more empowered, like you said.
But the problem is it always changes. We are in an ever-changing landscape, and we have to deal with that ever-changing landscape for sure. Okay.
Indeed.
Best place people can go. It's RTILA.com. Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
You're listening and watching the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show and the RTILA Podcast, guys.